So stage one of this is just to lay in controllers. So I've just set myself up some null controllers here, just like we've done for the jaw and so forth, not linked to anything yet, but they're there for when we need them. Right, so the eyelids. The basic operation is going to be much the same as the jaw, but we also want to take a look at how we're going to use the automatic function for auto eyelids. And here's what we want to look at. We want to look at how they're going to respond first. So we grab ourselves a pen and a bit of paper ready to jot down some values, and we just take a little peekaboo. Right, first of all, when he looks down, there we are, our soft eyes are kicking in. Let's say that's about the maximum that he's ever going to want to look down. Right, that's as far as we're going to want to push our auto eyelids. So let's take a look at the bones here and see what their rotation values are. We'll notice that this is currently at 35.58 on its pitch, which is what we're interested in. So that's looking down. And what we want to do is look at where we want the eyelids to sit at that point. So if I take my closed upper right here, and I just bring the morph up. There we go, we want it about there-ish, really. About 70%, that seems pretty good. So our 35.58 will link to 70% of that morph. And then for looking upwards, or rather we also need to look at the lower lid, sorry. Don't get ahead of yourself there, Craig. So I want the wide lower right. May even want to push that beyond 100. Okay, so let's say 200%. Now we want for when he's looking up, so I'll just set that back to 0. I'll do the same for that one. Just undo my move of my eye controller there. I'll select it again, and we'll push his eyes up. Let's say he's not going to need to look up much further than that, I don't think. And we check his eye bone rotation again. Okay, at this point, minus 37.02. Minus 37 is close enough. And for this, right, so we close the closed lower right. That's about right, 100%. And then we go look at the wide upper right. Wide upright, here it is. I want that to easily be 100%. Is that about correct? I'd say that's about correct, actually. So there we go, it's 100% each way. Good stuff. Okay, we can set those back to 0. So that's the values that we want to be working with. Okay. The auto eyelids we will set up last. We just wanted to note those values down first of all. So first thing we're going to do is set up just the standard eyelid controls. So pretty much the same thing as we had with our jaw. These are only operating on the y-axis here for opening and closing the lids, and you notice I've got one controller for each eyelid, which will give us individual control and a more expressive pair of eyes. So let's deal with the upper lid first here, which is the upper lid control Romeo item. Now when that goes totally up, we want his eye to open wide, and when it comes totally down at y-1, we want it to come totally closed. So pretty much the same thing. Let's just rattle through this. Wide upper right envelope, over to expressions. We can start off, we can just clone one of these things and adjust it as necessary. So Romeo morph mixer, R, up, lid, wide. We can of course delete that portion there. Change that to R up lid control Romeo. It's position Y, not Z. Get rid of that bracket and that bracket and apply it. Of course, because that's going into positive territory. There we go. So that's controlling the widening already. Then we clone it. This will be the closed version. And of course we do a times -1 to invert the negative value. So I'll put a bracket around that. Times -1, bracket, closed upper right envelope, and apply it. And there we go. So wide, close, wide, close. That's good. Now I've also got some other control I want here for giving some expressionality to the eyelids. I've got angry and sad eyes morphs. If we just take a quick look at those. The sad upper right does that, turns the eyelid out slightly, and of course the angry upper right will turn it in like that. And since that's a, you know, spinning it one side or the other, that seems pretty likely that we'll link it to the bank channel on this little controller there. So just like we did with the jaw for the bank, let's take the angry upper right, envelope it, go take the jaw left one to clone, call that the upper lid angry morph. Again, delete the crap I don't need here. Still using the map range because of course we are going from 30 degrees on the what's it channel here. Is it minus 30? Oh, I don't know, I'm just going to apply it quickly and find out if that's right. Apparently I've made an error. Yes, of course I have. I forgot to change the name of the thing, didn't I? Angry upper right. Yeah, it's not the jaw control, it's the R up lid control, Romeo. Yep, that's correct. That is how I want it when I bank it in, like that. I want that to come down, so that's good. Can clone that. Make it the sad. Get rid of the negative on that 30. Envelope the sad upper right. And apply it. And there we go. Sad eyelid, angry eyelid. Just like that. So I'll just very quickly set up the same thing for the other eyelids. Just clone these expressions nice and quickly. Turn them into left-hand side. I'll address that first. So there we are, my cloned expressions for left side. So may as well just start from the top here. Angry upper left. Envelope it, where are we? Left up lid angry. Apply. Closed off upper left. Take that and apply it. Sad upper left. Take that and apply it. And finally the wide upper left, take that and apply the expression. Okay. Let's just take a little peek here at what we got. That's working just like we had it on the right hand side. And if we tip it, aha, you see? We've got something different. Now when I tip it out, it becomes angry, and when I tip it in, it becomes sad. Well, that's exactly the same as we had here. And that's fine. I mean, it appears if I was just using this one lid on its own, you know, I'm pushing the controller to, you know, the right-hand side, screen right, and the eyelid turns screen left. So that seems counterintuitive. But I'm going to leave it like that, and here's the reason why. It's because if I select both of these controllers at once, then when I turn them both in the same direction, I get angry eyes on both eyes, and sad eyes on both eyes when going the other way. So you'll notice that my control is effectively inverted from one side to the other, and that is what I want because it allows me to multi-select my controller for quick and easy keying. Then we do some more cloning of the expressions for the lower lids. So there we see our cloned expressions for the lower lids, left and right. Let's apply those. So there we go, that's those expressions applied to the appropriate morph channels. And what do we get? Well, good. Our sad, angry behaviour is still in keeping with the upper pair. So we can grab all four and do angry eye, sad eye, just like that. That's good news. How's about our up and down motion? That widens the eyes going up, and it closes them going down. And that is also correct, because not only are we inverting between left and right, we're also inverting between top and bottom, because of course now I can grab all four controllers and go wide eyes and blink, and wide eyes and blink. So there we go. That's our eyelids set up for regular control, just like that. So the next stage is going to be to do this automatic lid function. Here's the issue with it. I can't use these, you know, closed, wide morphs that I've already linked into these channels. I can't put more expressions on them. You can add multiple expressions to a single channel, but they won't actually work. The only one that will be used is the last expression that you applied. So if I went and set an auto function up to operate on these same channels, then my normal, open close behavior here would be killed off. So what I need to do is I need to create another set of morphs. So I'm going to save my scene briefly and jump into Modeler. And what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to pick up my, closed and open eye morphs here. We don't need the angry or the angry or sad. It's just the close and wide ones that we want copies of. So I'm just going to copy vertex map and give it a new name. I call this the A closed, auto closed. Like I say, it's just a name. You can use whatever you like. So there we go. Eyes auto closed and auto open morphs, which are just direct copies of the regular closed and wide morphs, and come out of you. I can just reload my scene here. You'll notice that I don't actually use the hub to synchronize layout and modeler. The hub's always been a bit twitchy, and quite frankly just the quick reload scene works well enough for me. So, in case you were wondering, the hub is not part of my personal workflow. And so we now have those morphs for the eyes. That's all good. So let's link them in, shall we? How are we going to do it? Simply with map range, and we're going to of course reference these eye bones rotation channels on pitch. So let's take the closed, auto closed upper right, find the right uplid closed expression and clone it. Call that _A for auto. And what we want here, we're not looking at the lid controller at all anymore, we're looking at the bone. So it's map range, bracket, the name of the bone and channel, which is of course Romeo.R_I.rotation_P, and then the values. So it was comma 0, comma 35.5, comma 0, comma 0.7, close brackets, enter that, and apply it. Now what that should give us is when the eye rotates down to 35.5 degrees, that upper lid will close to 70%. But by using my little target here, we notice that it doesn't happen. The reason that it is not happening is because the expression engine can't see the result of where this bone is, what its pitch value is. And of course that's because, if we remember, it's being controlled by target item. Target item does output a value, but it doesn't output it in a position where the expression engine is capable of seeing it. You'll notice that if I come in here and I turn off the MC and IK and such, it's coming on this bone. You see, if I were rotating this manually, oh look at that, you see, the eyelid is responding to that rotation. So I need to find a way to actually make it work when the targeting mode is on. And the solution for it is just to turn back to our friend Motion Baker that we looked at before. So you see, I've added Motion Baker here. Now, what's different this time than before is I'm using the key mode extra channels rather than use existing. And I'm just doing it on the pitch, obviously, because that's all I need to look at. Using extra channels creates a set of keys that are on a separate set of channels. If I just bring up the graphs for this bone, you'll notice that now I've got this other channel called afterik.pitch. This creates a set of keys that occur after IK, and I can reference this channel with an expression. And so you see I've converted the expression here to go from the Romeo right eye rotation.p to instead look at the Romeo right eye .afterik.pitch, and that is the key to doing it. The thing with using the after IK channels on Motion Baker is that you don't get the same kind of slowdown as you get when using the use existing channels when we looked at before with the deformations of Janet and some of the little things for auto walking on Romeo where we thought that we might be able to use Motion Baker. So there we go. Motion Baker does come in useful. And as we can see, bingo, it suddenly works. That's it. So that's good. Obviously, I don't want the morph to be going into negative territory, as it currently is when the thing is looking up. So I'm going to jump in here and of course clamp this whole expression here. And there we go. It won't go below 0 anymore. But of course this is always on now, which I don't want. I want this to be switchable, of course. I want to be able to throw this little switch that I've created here, auto eyelids. And when that switch is on, I want the auto eyelids to be affecting, and when it's not, I want them to be turned off. So of course again we just modify the expression. Like previously with the sticky lips for the jaw, I want to be able to multiply between 0 and 1, and of course the controller is going from -1 to 1, so I'm just going to create a little sub-expression that will become the switch. So the Romeo MM auto lids, which will be map ranged. So there we go. So I can take this whole thing and enclose it in brackets, pretty much like we were doing before, and multiply it by this sub-expression's value. And there we see automatic eyelid function off, throw the switch, and automatic eyelid function comes on. So there we go. That's nice and easy. The issue now, of course, is if I've got my auto eyelids turned on and perhaps he's, doing a looking down thing and I wanted to key in a blink here, you see my eyelids are going to overlap because that morph is getting applied, because of course it's just a clone of the, normal closed morph, and this is going up to 100% here. It's now pushing that way beyond where it's supposed to be. I'm getting the 100% from the original closed morph, plus I'm getting the extra percentage from the automatic morph. That's a bit of an issue. Now I could solve it by, just being careful when I'm doing my animating, not to, push the lids too far when I am in automatic lids mode, but there's no need for that because I can fix it within the expression. So if I come out of here, back into my graph editor, what I can of course do is subtract the value of the regular closed morph from the value that is happening on the automatic closed morph. So I once again put another pair of brackets around the map range function, and I subtract that value from it. The only problem that that's going to give me is, of course, since the auto lids aren't coming up to 100%, if I've got the blink at 100% or the regular closed morph as it were at 100%, then that's going to push the auto lid close below 0%. So really what I need to do is rejig the whole thing and get rid of the clamping on the map range and just clamp the entire expression itself. So I put brackets around my map range function, subtract the eyes closed upper right bracket and bracket around that, multiplied by the Romeo Motion Mixer auto lids, and then I go and clamp this entire thing. Okay, so there's our clamp added in, and now watch this auto closed here. As I use the regular close, note how that goes down to 0, and there we go, our eyelids meet perfectly, even though the automatic eyelid function is turned on. And that's how you do it. So we'll just clone all of that off for the other lids and the other side. Of course I'm going to add the motion baker to this left eye bone here. Set to extra channels, override and rotation pitch. Can clone this expression and of course just convert it to left hand. That's nice and easy. Let's check that's working there. Yeah, that's my automatic eyelids functioning there. And if I close them, bingo. Okay. And of course I just do it for the lower lids. Of course, don't forget we're changing the value here on the lower lids because it's going to -37, because the automatic closing of the lower lids corresponds with him looking up, not down. And so we switch that value over there to the -37. And so then what we should get is, when he looks up, yep, the automatic lower lids are starting to close. And of course, when he blinks with his lower lids, that goes down to 0, and we've got our crossover there. So that maintains our eyelids like that. So that's all good. That's the closing of the lower and upper lids matched in with the eye rotation. Now all we need to do is, of course, do the widening of the lower and upper lids matched in with the eye rotation. So there we go, in our expression we simply exchange closed for wide. And of course we exchange our values here for the upper lid to the -37 and 100% morph. And there we go. We see when he looks up, his top eyelid will automatically widen there. And of course, because we've also subtracted that off, sorry, I accidentally changed that into wide, that should have stayed as closed. So as when he blinks, whilst looking up, we still get a proper and perfect match, and the automatic widening blends itself all the way down to 0, as we'd expect it to. And we of course do more clones for the widening of the lower lids when he looks down, which, if we remember, we wanted to go up to 200%, and so of course we exchange that map range value. Instead of being 1, we make it 2, and we of course adjust our clamp to allow it to go all the way up to 2. The result of that, of course, is that now when he looks down, there we go. Both our lower and upper lids are reacting, whether he's looking up or down. And irrespective of where that is, we can grab our eyelids here, we can perform a blink, and the lids will always meet properly. They won't overlap one another. Of course, we do have one problem, which is when we go for wider eyes, is they start to intersect with the eyeballs again, because the morphs are overlapping one another. The vertex deltas, as they get called, are colliding improperly. And what we can do for that is simply here, we were subtracting the value of the eyes closed. We can also additively subtract the value of the eyes wide. And so simply to do that, we put a bracket around this, plus, and there we go, like that. We can copy this little thing into all of our other expressions. And the result that this will give us is whether the eyes are being made to close or go wide by our manipulation of the main controls. Either of those two values will be subtracted away from the automated values. Because of course our morphs are built in opposition, and the way that we set up the controllers on those main controllers, we can never have both the eyes closed and the eyes wide morphs occurring at the same time. So by adding their two values together here, it will only ever actually be pulling one at a time. And so now if I make him look down, and I choose to widen his eyelids from the main controllers here, they no longer intersect with the eyeballs. And it has no effect upon our blink action. So there we go. Fully automatic eyelids, which are switchable. At any time, you can grab the auto eyelids, you can switch it off, and you're just back to good old standard control. Sorry, let me switch that off. There we are. And there you are, no more automated eyelids. So there we go, fully automatic eyelids function that will also always meet up, and you'll never get overlapping eyelids as a result of the two control systems interplaying with one another. So like I said, even though we've got no way to get in and actually manage the vertex deltas themselves, we can, through careful selection of our morphs and separating things out properly, get the same sort of functionality. We just have to approach it in a different way. And so there we have it. That's his eyelids all taken care of. I do have another little control that I'm adding in, which is the squint control. Notice I created a morph for making him squint like that. Why did I do this? Why don't I just, if I want to squint him, why don't I just, position his eyelids into a sort of a squint appearance? The reason is it's not such a big deal on cartoon characters. It's more of a thing that you would get on realistic characters, humans, creatures, etc. Is that, of course, when you squint, the muscles of the eye do something different than when you blink. You get more pulling coming up here just on the inside of the lower eyelid, and also the upper eyelid tends to be a bit flatter and be pulling more out at the side. So that's why I use a separate squint control here, and we will of course link that in to the squint controller that I've got here, which is very easy to do. So once again, we just envelope it and create a morph, create an expression rather, which in this case is going to be a map range again, because I'm going between -1 and 1. So There we go, there's that. Apply it. And now we've got a little squint that we can add on. Why haven't I done the squint individually for each eye? Because there's little need. If I wanted to have a slightly different squint from one eye to the next, I can just throw the squint controller for both eyes and then offset the individual eye as I fancy. And just like my automated eyelids function, I don't want this squint to interfere when I'm blinking or making the eyes wide from the main thing. So, you guessed it, once again, I'm just going to add that little subtraction piece. I can just copy it straight out of one of the other expressions, bracket around my map range function, and then when my squint is turned on, I can still blink him and get his eyelids to meet. Oh, look at that, my squint's going into negative territory. Of course, I need to clamp this entire thing to make sure it never goes below 0 or above 1. There we go, my squint on. I get no intersection. Of course, what if I was using my auto eyelids? You guessed it. I can just take this little add here and I can keep on adding. Plus, just copy that couple of names out of there because they are, of course, identical. The morph names, apart from the addition of A underscore, A underscore. Oopsie, put the A in the wrong place, look at that. A underscore belongs there, and there. There we go. So now if I've got my squint turned on, and I've got my auto eyelids turned on, then the whole thing still plays together nicely, and I can still blink and widen his eyes without intersections. So there we go. That's how you do it. That gives you a fully functional set of eyelids. And of course, let's not forget you've got his, sad eye, angry eye. Obviously, if you do a full blink when he's got sad or angry eyes turning on, then you are going to get intersections. Because of course, the eyes have to pitch up and down to create those sad and angry shapes. The simple trick to that is just when you key a blink in, like that, if you've been doing perhaps an angry expression, you would just roll out of the angry expression whilst you're blinked and then roll back into it once you open the eyes again. So there you go. In 3ds Max or Maya, etc., you could account for that by performing equations upon the vertex deltas to prevent them from overlapping automatically. But it's not a big deal just to have to, unangry or unsadden the eyes for those couple of frames that your blink is on for. The functionality that we've got with our squint, with our auto eyelids, and the fact that they won't overlap when just doing normal wide and blink functions is pretty good. So there we go. Fully automated eyelid controls for us that are completely transparent and which won't give us nasty overlapping or sheared geometry. So we like it a lot. We've got an awful lot of functionality there. One thing you'll notice, of course, is I've got loads of morphs in this list. I mean, look at that, just for the eyelids here. Of course, all I'm using is individual morphs for each eyelid. The upper left, wide and close, the upper right, wide and close, etc. But I've still got these whole morphs, these non-split left, right, upper or lower morphs, just sad, just the sad upper. But we're not going to use those ever. So considering that I am all happy with everything that I've got thus far, the best thing for me to do at this point is go back into Modeler and pull up my Romeo object, and I'm just going to delete those morphs that I no longer need. So the eyes angry morph there, delete it. The eyes angry lower for both sides, delete it. Eyes angry upper, delete it. The eyes closed overall, delete it. Just for the lower half, delete it. And so on and so forth. Squint left and right morphs I don't actually need. And there you go. So you've only got the lower left, lower right, upper left, upper right versions of the morphs. This makes things a little tidier in layout. It means there's less morphs being loaded in. And that, of course, will also help with your memory. Not your memory, but your computer's memory. There will be fewer morphs loaded into memory, and also the fact that the morphs are no longer stored in the object will make the object file itself that little bit smaller. So that's one of the other things that we do as we go along, is we delete our redundant morphs. You don't have to, really. I mean, if you did want to keep them there for safety's sake, if you ever did need to go back, make adjustments and re-split them, that's fine. You can do that. But I'm happy with what I've got. I've tested it out, so I've just gone and done the deletion. And of course, everything still works fine. So there we go. Happy, happy days. Move on to another area. So I've just skipped ahead a little bit here. No need to keep repeating the same thing over and over. You see I've added a few extra controls. For instance, this one, the lips placement, which allows me to just, position the lips on the face, up, down, left, right a bit. And that's simply all it is, an up, down, left, right set of morphs that are linked to that. Nothing special, no kind of switching or anything there. And I've also linked in a tipping lips to tip them left and right to the bank channel. That's all that's there. A little lips purse controller I've set up here, which is simply for giving the purse shape, sucking the lips in, or blowing a kiss out, etc. So that's just a single dimensional slider there, pretty much like the squint. I've also added controls here for the brows. Again, they're just up, down, left, right there for raising the brows up, bringing them down, pushing them in, or turning them out. So you've got that on either side for the left and right hand side. There's no kind of rotation on that. The brows are pretty straightforward and simple. I've also put in mouth controllers here, blend our wide and narrow lip shapes and, lips going up and lips going down. And again, that's just up, down, left, right, same as the lip placement there. And so you've got that for the left hand and right hand sides respectively. And I just want to draw your attention to these other controllers, which are the mouth corner controllers that give raising and lowering just at the corners of the mouth. And also, if we turn on their rotation, I've also got morphs to round out or sharpen up the corners of the mouth there. This is a great little control, and the reason I put these in there, these separate mouth corner controls, is because when you're animating, if you put a little bit of overlap on the corners of the mouth when you're, making speech or doing facial expressions, it really brings your face to life. Just having tiny little twitches at the corner of the mouth really, really does emphasize things massively. It gives you so much more life than you would get off just this control by itself. So that's very handy to have, and that's why I have those there. Otherwise, they're just simple up and down morphs, and of course rotational for the rounding and sharpening of the corners. But they're wonderful little additives. So those are all simple, really. Easy to set up. They set up in exactly the same way as we've seen setting up the other things, and they're all of course flattened. I've just scaled their Z's down for their control boxes because they don't need any kind of Z distance parameter. However, we've also got here individual controllers for the upper and lower lips, which at the moment aren't doing anything because we're going to make those a little bit more complicated than just these standard controllers, so I'll show you how we set these up. Before I do, I just want to, familiarise you with these morphs just so as you're sure of what they're for. They are things for pushing the lips forward like this, and so on. Opening the lips like this, peeling them back, and also closing them together. Okay, but having that control available for the lower and upper lip individually. And of course also for left and right. The other thing I want you to remember, as far as the closed lips morphs goes, I'll show you this here on Janet because it's more obvious and more prevalent, is that because of course, the lips are together in her, rest pose here, jaw closed, with Romeo the lips are almost touching. So obviously when the jaw is closed, you don't need to use the lips closed morph at all. That's only really going to come into use when you've got the jaw open in some position. And because of this, you will get, in Modeler, a rather nasty looking morph. You see? Look, the geometry is completely overlapped here for the lips closed morph. And so you'd think that, that's not going to work, that's going to create a horrible shape. Remember, it's not how this morph is behaving here at rest pose with the jaw closed, it's how it's going to blend with the jaw open morph. And that's all you need to remember about that. So don't worry about how it looks in Modeler. It's not uncommon at all to have morphs in Modeler that look completely wrong in the rest pose. Remember, it's how they blend with the other morphs. So back to Romeo. You can see that I've got forward upper lip, but only on the left hand side there, and of course forward upper on the right hand side, which gives me the entire upper lip coming forward and stuff like that. So with these controllers that I'm using for the upper and lower lip, what I need to do is I need to bias them. There's no, lip going left, lip going right. So of course the X channel here isn't actually going to be controlling a morph, or it's not going to be pushing the lip left and right. The lip is only going to go up and down, forwards and backwards. Okay, but it does have left and right hand sided versions, so we're going to be using the X channel to bias the morph between left and right. And well, here's how we go about setting it up. We'll do the upper lip here, because obviously the upper lip and lower lip are, the setup is identical, so I'll just show you the upper lip. Here's how so the first morphs we'll look at the open upper, which is, peeling the lip back. So open upper left and open upper right, which of course give us little snarl shapes. So let's open the envelope for that. Our expression, of course, starts out like this: the upper lip control Romeo position Y channel, and so we apply this to the open upper left lip morph, and there we go. Straight away we've got that action going on, so that's fine. Now, in order to bias it, what we want it to be at 100% when this is up, obviously, as we have it, and we also want it to stay at 100% as we slide the X channel across here to +1, but we want it to go down to 0 as the X channel goes down to -1. So the simplest way to do that is to just copy that very quickly, subtract, paste it, position X, okay, enter that. Of course, what's now happening is it will subtract 1 when this goes to 1, so that's no good. We want it the other way round, so of course we invert the value. So a bracket around that, times space -1, bracket, enter, and so now that goes up too much, so that's fine. As we go down to -1 there, and push it over to the right hand side, we see that the morph blends out, which is what we want, but of course when we push it positive, then it adds on and becomes 200%, so that's not what we want. But of course the reason is because we haven't clamped this. So to fix it, we just of course clamp the entire thing to stop it going up to 200% like that. So let's put a pair of brackets around this whole thing to section it off like that. There we go. And then of course clamp, bracket, (0, 1), bracket. And there we are. We now find that when we slide it over here, nothing. It stays at 100%. And when we slide it that way, it goes down to 0. And there we have it. So all I simply do then, of course, clone, rename it all for the right hand side, and of course take away the inversion there, envelope the open upper right morph, and apply it. And so what we now have, when the X position of this controller is at 0 in the middle, both the left and right hand side are peeling, and when I throw it between left and right, I get my bias, just like that. So there you go. And of course we do exactly the same for the closing of the lip. So close upper left, envelope it, clone that one there, close. Of course we need to invert the Y channel, so another bracket goes around our position Y variable, times space -1, close bracket, apply that, clone it, make it a right hand side version, uninvert the X variable, envelope the closed upper right, apply it, and check it. Yep, that closes the lip, and we can bias that close between left and right. And all we do is the same for the forwards and backwards motion, but linking to the Z channel. Let's note the way we're going. Forward is going to equate to -Z on the controller. So envelope forward upper left, clone that, rename it, exchange that for Z there. We do of course keep the inversion of the Z channel, apply it, let's clone it again to do the right hand, killing the inversion on the X, clone the left version and turn it into a back, for which we just kill the inversion of the Z channel. and we can lose the brackets around the Z channel variable. Then for the right, clone the forward again. Once again, lose the inversion for the Z channel. And apply these to their respective morph channels. So forward upper right, envelope it, apply the expression, back upper left, envelope it, apply the expression, and envelope back upper right, and apply that expression. Let's test it. Yup, upper lip forward, upper lip backward, probably easiest to see the forward. There we go, left and right bias. Let's just check the back to be sure. Yup, left and right bias. There we go. So that's how you can set up your individual upper and lower lip controllers with left and right handed sided bias. So more cloning of expressions, once again just exchanging up for low, apply them to the lower lip channels, and there we go. We now have our separate controller for the lower lip, which of course also has the left-right bias. Let's of course be sure to test it with our draw open morph. There we go. Zoom in a little bit there so we can see it nice and clearly. You can see our lip effect there. And of course the same for the upper. There we are. Pretty good. And with that we are just about finished. There's just a couple extra little controls that we're going to put in. And so here we have it, set up quickly, a little tongue controller, nothing special to it, no kind of biasing or anything, it's just very straight linked channels. So you've got a tongue up morph there. Do be aware that when you model your tongue up morph you might need to make it quite extreme to allow for when the jaw is open. I can see here I'm going to have to go in and make it more extreme than I have so he can reach the top of his mouth whilst his jaw is completely open. So you've got an up and down morph for the tongue there. You've also got an in and out morph for the tongue linked to the Z channel. The X channel will push the tongue left to right, and then rotationally we can twist the tongue left and right, and I've linked the pitch channel to a little pair of morphs that will just tip the tongue tip up and down there, and that gives us a nice full range of motion for the tongue. And that is it. Our facial rig is now completely set up. There's always, of course, other little things that you can think of, additional morphs, additional controls, but really what we've got here should be plenty for full facial animation with lots of detail and nuance. So the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a new null. I'm going to name this Face Controls Romeo, position it around here somewhere. Make sure that parent in place is on. I'm going to select all of the frame nulls for these things. Make them children of this face control null. And there we go. That helps keep my scene editor nice and tidy. Little item shape on it doesn't go amiss there. And then of course I can just position my entire facial control setup there. And of course I can scale it because at the moment it's probably a bit big. You want it, you know, a nice decent size so as you can have your face and controllers visible together. And that's it. That's our face rig completely set up. So we have our morph rig, which is controlled by these joystick controllers, and of course we've also got our secondary joints which we set up before. I've just got there as a selection set, and there we have it. And of course the two sets of controls work perfectly well together, so I can pose the jaw somewhere, I can give his lip a little bit of adjustment, but of course I could still come in here and grab the joints to get some additional shaping, just like that. And there we go. Our fella is finished. We've done all of his body rigging, we've done all of his facial rigging, we've done all of his deformations. That is Romeo done, 100%. We can take a little look at some of our face shapes with the, of course, smooth mesh and see that he all works just lovely. And has a great range of expressionality to him. And there we are. Automated function. And so we're happy with the fella. He's all good. So with that all done, it'll be time to take a look at Janet, I think, which of course is going to be much the same sort of thing, but we'll see a little couple of tricks as well.